on our part also. So good evening and namaste, everyone. First of all, a warm welcome to our expert speaker for today, Dr. Shagun Sinha, who's joining us all the way from New Delhi. And also a warm welcome to all our wonderful participant cohort who have been with us through these 9 days of this 2-week IKS course. So let me just share some tidbits that uh, we started planning this 2-week certificate course sometime around last year. I think the seed was sown last year, the end of 2024. And some of you who have joined us at NLD in most of our FDPs, in the diverse range of FDPs that we have been doing with different set of experts that we have been trying to kind of expand in terms of bringing more and more IKS sessions for all of you and bringing resource persons and experts who have the academic rigor and the expertise to deliver sessions on IKS for all of you. So we have done an FDP on Mahabharata that we concluded recently. We have done FDPs on Arthashastra, Indic local self-governance, introductory level to IKS. So, and most of you have been placing your trust in us. So thank you so much. And we really hope that this 2-week marathon was a very fruitful experience for all of you in terms of lot of takeaways, which you can directly implement in your classrooms with your students as far as IKS is concerned. So on this note, I am delighted to welcome Dr. Shagun Sinha, who is our expert resource person for the day. And I am honored and pleased to share with all of you that she was one of the fellows selected by Anadi Foundation's Center for Indigenous Knowledge Systems, Tamil Nadu, for a 3-month fellowship project, of which I was also a part of. So we were part of the same participant cohort, and this was Anadi's first such initiative at offering a fellowship. And in the course of the lecture, or once Dr. Shagun finishes her lecture, we'll request her to talk about her project during the fellowship and her interest in Sanskrit and computational linguistics. So she's quite a busy person, a young scholar, has a lot of accolades to her credit, but let me formally introduce her to this August gathering. Dr. Shagun Sinha is an assistant professor of Sanskrit at Amity University, Noida. She completed her undergraduate studies at Lady Shri Ram College for Women, Delhi University, before pursuing advanced education in Sanskrit with an interdisciplinary focus at the Jawaharlal Nehru University, JNU, New Delhi. Dr. Shagun holds both an MA and a PhD in Sanskrit, specializing in computational linguistics from JNU. Her research includes training large language models such as GPT to summarize extensive Sanskrit texts. She's a passionate scholar of language and linguistics, and she has a particular fondness for Paninian linguistics. And I believe, Dr. Shagun, this was also the focus of your project with Anadi Foundation. She enjoys teaching and discussing with her students all these aspects about Sanskrit, but especially linking Sanskrit with computational aspects. Dr. Sinha has also been an exchange student at the University of Zurich, Switzerland, enriching her academic perspective with international exposure. She's published papers in national journals, and she's presented her work at several international conferences. In July 2024, she served as a summer fellow at Anadi Foundation's Center for Indigenous Knowledge Systems. Some of our participants already know about Anadi Foundation's work, where she conducted research on the intersection of Paninian grammar and computational thinking. And I believe your focus in today's lecture is somewhat going to delve around that area. Prior to joining Amity University, Dr. Sinha worked at an AI startup at Bengaluru, and she's also held academic positions at Ashoka University and JNU. Outside of her academic pursuits, she enjoys cooking, that's wonderful, public speaking, and listening to high quality academic podcasts. That's an interest that we share. Definitely, I'm also quite a podcast freak these days. She was awarded the Springer Award for Ethics in Research in 2019, and she has won several awards in public speaking during her undergrad and postgraduate days. So, participants, you can already see that Dr. Shagun's profile intersects her knowledge and passion for Sanskrit and computational linguistics. And what I'm sure she's going to try and do today is offer us some insights about this intersection from the perspective of Bharatiya Gyan Parampara. So hearty welcome, Dr. Shagun, once again on behalf of Team NLD and also on behalf of GNVS Institute of Management Mumbai, which is our collaborating institute for this 2-week certificate course. And I couldn't be more delighted that it is you who are offering this closure lecture in this certificate course, which means that we are going to end on a very high note. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Sorry, is somebody unmuted? Participants, we request you to please keep your microphones on mute when the expert is delivering her lecture. Also, if you are not in a setup where you can switch on your video, that's quite okay. You can also keep your video switched on. We have dedicated time for Q&A once Dr. Shagun finishes the lecture. So I think, Dr. Shagun, what we can do is go on until 7:35, and then we can open the floor for discussion and question and answers. Yeah, over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nidhi and Dr. Vikas, for having me here. I'm delighted, first of all, to be a part of this series. Thankfully, I could get a slot here. So this was quite a competitive FDP, even for a resource person. So thank you so much for inviting me, firstly. I'll share my screen in just a second. Meanwhile, since this is an FDP, and I've been to many FDPs during my PhD, some of them very good, some of them not so good. I don't want you to take my memory of a boring lecture from this FDP, given that it has a history of or a tradition of very good lectures. So I was hoping to keep this very interactive. And in one of my conversations with Dr. Nidhi ji earlier, I asked her what would be the demography of the participants. And I was informed that most of you are like the kind of interested audience that we have and excited audience that we have. I learned that we all are from varied backgrounds. So my PPT, which will be up in just a moment from now, should be up anytime now, is indeed focused on one topic for the sake of presentation. But I would love if any of you have any doubts, if you have any questions. Is that okay, Nidhi? If they ask it on the chat box during the lecture, I'll be happy to take them first. And second, you tell me whatever would be the flow. And second is that I'm trying to make it as interactive and as introductory. So if it gets if I digress anywhere, if you think this isn't something that hitting you, please let me know. I'll try to mold it as much as I can so that you have something good to take away from this lecture. I don't want anybody to be snoozing off during this, so that's the warning. Okay. All right.
I think that works perfectly well. In all the previous sessions, the chat box has been open for all our participants to share their insights. Sarita ji is already saying she's interested in knowing how language is used for computational thinking. So while you are showcasing the presentation, if there are comments and questions in the chat box, I will read out the same for you.
Okay, sure. All right, thank you so much. So the theme of my lecture was Paninian grammar and computational thinking, and I have molded it a bit and I modified it a bit to make it Paninian modern computation. By the end of the lecture, you'll know why. How many of you, just by show of hands, can I ask how many of you have heard of the name Panini?
How many of you have heard of the name Panini? Yes.
Oh, wonderful. So we have quite an enlightened audience then. Thank you. So Panini is a famous name. Panini is the reason I entered Sanskrit in the first place. So you can understand how important a man he is in my life. And Panini is going to be an important man in your lives too, if you're pursuing IKS, particularly Sanskrit. So I'll just tell you brief about what are we going to cover in this lecture. I'll quickly introduce you to the history and background of Sanskrit literature, and then move to Panini and where do we locate and where do we situate Panini in all of this. And then afterwards, I'll give you a very short example. And given that this is not a topic that I want to end at or forcefully end in a day, I will give you a slight intro and then point you to resources that you can pursue further for this particular topic. So so we begin. I'll be introducing you to the history of Sanskrit, very quick overview of Sanskrit literature. Why are we learning about Sanskrit grammar in this literature? Within Sanskrit grammar, the particular part of Panini and his Ashtadhyayi, and the slight connection between Sanskrit and programming, which is the part where I talk about computation and computational thinking. All right. So this lecture is not meant to teach you language, spoken Sanskrit, or programming by any standards. So apologies if you expect this, but I'll be covering just general overall concepts. So we often hear, I'll start with this. Whenever I tell people that I am a Sanskritist, I get this question, Sanskrit is very good for computers. And that is where the conversation either starts or ends. It's primarily because they've heard it and then they parrot it. They don't know the core of it. Why are we saying this? Why do we say Sanskrit is very good for computers? So some of the people, non-academic people, they do have a hint of it, but not they don't know the depths of it. So my quick answer is, you will hear people say Sanskrit allows you to say a lot in more, less is more in Sanskrit, which is absolutely true, not denying any of it. The quick academic answer to that is the grammar of Sanskrit is very scientific, right? You can use more words, less words to say a lot. It's because Sanskrit is a morphologically rich language, and therefore we can very conveniently say that the grammar of Sanskrit is scientific, as people call it. Yes, that is true. But what I'm going to cover today is the book of Sanskrit grammar, which is even more scientific. And then the question, of course, is the book of grammar or the book of Sanskrit grammar, what is that? For that, we need to understand the history of Sanskrit literature. So we begin, the core of Sanskrit, the history of Sanskrit literature begins with the Vedas. Very, very widely accepted thing is we start everything from the Vedas, which is not denied, right? So the first layer of Sanskrit literature where we all start learning either Vedic or classical Sanskrit, that division comes later. We all start with the Vedas. The second layer is the Vedangas. Vedangas along with Brahman, Aranyak and Upanishads. The order is, this has to be taken as one unit. And then finally we come to what is known as the classical Sanskrit literature. So this is widely a division, okay? Now, the reason I put Vedangas there with Vedas is, while Vedas are the center of Sanskrit universe, what we study here, the Vedangas are the auxiliary texts. And trust me, I'm getting to Panini's Ashtadhyayi through this. The Vedangas help you understand the Vedas better, all right? So just like Vedas are 4 Vedas, Rig Ved, Sam Ved, Yajur Ved, Samved, and Atharva Veda, you have 6 Vedangas, okay? So why do we have this literature? Because they help you understand the Vedas better. There can be a lot of debate and there can be a lot of discussion on why we needed some texts so to understand the Vedas better. But I think I can take that up in the Q&A. Long answer short, with time, the Vedas needed more explanation. So any later Vedic literature that evolved because people wanted to understand the Vedas better. And as is the case with any knowledge, it loses its meaning with time. It might lose its meaning or interpretation with time. So you have auxiliary texts and refresher courses to help you understand them better. So these are the 6 Vedangas, 6 types or 6 divisions and fields of study related to the Vedas, and each covers a particular aspect of analysis for the Vedas to be understood better. So if there is a Vedic mantra which has words, and you hear all these mantras, I'll play a few videos at the end for better understanding as well. So these are the 6 fields which analyze one particular aspect of Veda for better understanding. So the names are Shiksha, Kalpa, Vyakarana, Nirukta, Chand, and Jyotisha. Shiksha analyzes Vedic sounds, how you pronounce Vedic sounds. You shouldn't be making any mistakes in the pronunciation, so on and so forth. So if you don't want to make any mistakes there, you first undergo a diploma or a degree in Shiksha Vedanga or a study in Shiksha Vedanga, so that you know the sounds better. So you don't confuse sir, sha, sir, ra, ka. You don't do these mistakes. And then the accent and intonation, all of these details are covered in this Vedanga. The second aspect is Kalpa. Now, Kalpa deserves another lecture on its own. So Vedic rituals and rules primarily, that is covered in Kalpa. Third is Nirukta, to study Vedic words with their meanings, to arrive at their etymologies. So if a Vedic word is teacher, the etymology would be somebody who teaches. A person that teaches is called a teacher. And that's how you explain the Vedic words. Next is Chanda, which analyzes Vedic meters. Now, I need to rush through this list because I need to go to Panini very quickly. But this is just to give you an overview. Any questions? Happy to take them in the Q&A. Vedic meters, Gayatri, Trishtup, Anushtup, the later Chandas. You must have heard the word Chanda, right? In Sanskrit mantras, they're usually very, very often heard. So Chanda is that. When you analyze the Chanda in which a Vedic mantra is composed, you are said to be working in the Chanda Vedanga. Then we have the Jyotisha. Analyzes the time and how and when should a yajna be conducted, when and how will the stars align. Astrology, astronomy, everything from the Indian astrology and Indian astronomy, they all have roots in Jyotisha. And this is the word that we are used to hearing as well. And then we have Vyakarana, which is the focus of today's lecture. Vyakarana is loosely, roughly translated as grammar, and the word that we are used to. And Vyakarana analyzes Vedic mantras for the words and their stems and their roots. So how is a word composed? If somebody says pathati, what is the root there? What is the suffix there? How do we arrive at the meaning based on the suffixes and the roots and other grammatical details? This is the task of Vyakarana. For me, Vyakarana is where the magic of Sanskrit lies. I may have opposition on this, but Vyakarana is the love of my life in Sanskrit universe. So when I say Vyakarana, the first word that comes to my mind is always the Ashtadhyayi. Remember a few slides ago, I told you that the grammar of Sanskrit is scientific, but the book of grammar is even more scientific. Here is the scientific grammar book that I was talking about, the Ashtadhyayi, the Sanskrit grammar book, the ultimate Sanskrit grammar book, and it is a part of one of the Vedangas. Time period of composition is it's opposed, it's debated. Some say 800 BCE, some say 400 BCE, but I do go with a mid path between 800 to 400 BCE. That's the time of composition. And the man of the hour, Panini, he's the one who composed this text, which was not a written text. It was an oral text. And therefore, this book, which is known today for being the storehouse of all Sanskrit magic, for me at least, is the reason why I'm talking about its relation with computation today. So why are we talking about Panini? Even if it was a Vedanga, why are we really, really interested into it? Panini and the entire tradition of Sanskrit grammatical tradition was built in order to understand the Vedas better, the Vedic words better, right? But this text has garnered attention even today because of its structure. The structure of Panini's Ashtadhyayi is so scientifically and systematically composed that it is a little magical, a little magical, as well as little astonishing for somebody like us today, who would think, how can somebody compose a book like that? And I'll show the example in just a minute from now. So the word Ashtadhyayi is composed of two words. Ashta means 8, Adhyaya means chapters. A book composed of 8 chapters is called Ashtadhyayi. The Ashtadhyayi has 8 chapters, and it's a book of Sanskrit grammar rule. At the outset, it is a collection of rules of grammar, just like the ones in any other language. So think of the grammar books in your native languages that you've always studied, right? You have studied Hindi, English, whatever, Gujarati, whatever you have studied. You must have been taught grammar. So there are 4,000 rules of, I'm sorry for the typo, there are approximately 4,000 rules of Sanskrit grammar there. And each rule is called a sutra. So the technical term for a rule here in Panini's Ashtadhyayi is not a rule or a niyama, it's called a sutra. So how does a rule look like in Ashtadhyayi? It is quite similar to the ones in Hindi or English. So if I say something like this, if I'm teaching something in Hindi to a beginner, I will teach them, when you add Vidya with Alaya, you get Vidyalaya, do it like this, right? Or if I am teaching English grammar to somebody, I will give them something like this, right? Go becomes went in the past tense, right? Replace that. All of this, to think broadly, are rules of grammar. And there's one more aspect to it. While Hindi and English are fine, there is a mathematical rule like this, right? This is also, if you think of it, it's a rule. It's not a grammar rule of a language. It's the grammar of mathematics. This is where I think I want you all to really start thinking about what I'm talking about today. Sine square theta plus cos square theta is equal to 1. It's the grammar of mathematics. And very quickly, we will see that something similar exists in Panini's Ashtadhyayi. So the magic firstly lies in Panini's structurization of Ashtadhyayi, that's point 1. The second lies in thinking about rules of language in terms of sine square theta and cos square theta. All right. So the first takeaway is structure of Ashtadhyayi. If you're thinking about what are you taking away from this lecture? So first is the structure of Ashtadhyayi, which I'll talk about, which I am talking about right now. But the second key takeaway is, and something to ponder over even after the lecture is, how could somebody convert rules of language, a grammar of language, into something like this mathematical formula and mold it into this? This is where his scientificity really starts. What is so unique about this? I've just covered that in what I was saying in the continuation of the previous slide. So why such a hype around Panini, right? So the structure of Ashtadhyayi will help, just discussed. Panini's philosophy is less is more, brevity is the key. I want you to start thinking, the first question that you must keep with this lecture is, how did Panini arrive at a mathematical formulation of linguistic rules? That's the key. And the way Panini achieves that mathematicity in his linguistic rules is through this. Brevity is the key. Brevity is all that Panini desires. Less is more. The core of Sanskrit grammar and the history of Sanskrit grammar is, grammar wants to always use least number of letters and words to say the most number of ideas. So brevity, and what brevity translates to laghava. So one of the 5 goals of Sanskrit grammar, and in turn Panini's grammar, is laghava. To be able to say a lot, to be able to express a lot of rules of Sanskrit grammar and language by using the least number of words. So keep that idea, and when I'll come back, when I interact with you, I'll ask about this. So there's so many ways in which Panini achieves this less is more formula, less is more idea. But today I'm going to introduce you to two of his tools which he uses in order to achieve this. And trust me, these are the 2 tools, the structure and the organization of formulas, along with Shiva Sutras, which give Panini the computational touch, the rules and the mathematicity and the computational touch. All right. At this point, let me just pause and just a gentle reminder and a gentle warning, so to say. that I have not really defined computational and mathematicity in the flow, because I'm just keeping it very general. I'm trying to help you understand the relation between linguistics and maths, and that's the entire goal of my lecture today, and how Panini is called, and why Panini is called a programmer. But if you need more details and if you need more readings, please let me know. So I just thought I'd let you know that we are not taking it very academically at this point, because the idea is to explore and just learn and imbibe ideas rather than getting a strict training or getting entirely skilled into this. So please let me know if you need any definitions there. But just to tell you, composing texts in a manner that seems very similar to the maths that we learned today and to the programming that we learned today. That is the idea that I'm trying to impart to you. How Panini has used his rules in order to look like a mathematician or a computer programmer of today's world. That is the idea that I'm trying to cover. Okay.
That's
these are
wonderful. I think that idea itself is very intriguing. And Dr. Vikas is saying that he's reminded of brevity is the soul of wisdom by
Yes.
William Shakespeare, I guess, Vikas. Yeah.
All right. Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Great. So Shiva Sutras and Panini's formulas organized in this way. How many of you have, if by any chance, heard of the Maheshwar Sutras, which is another name for this, or Shiva Sutras? By show of hands, you can raise your hands in Google chat.
Yes.
One
Manishi.
hand I see, two, three,
Okay.
3, 4.
Yes. Yeah. Devina ji has also heard. Vikas. Yes. Yeah.
Perfect.
Quite a couple.
Quite a few. Yes, in the context of Sanskrit linguistics.
Linguistics.
Yes, so I'm not talking about any mantras. I'm not talking about any chants or recitational chants. I'm actually talking about the Maheshwar Sutras. All right. So the Shiva Sutras, they help forming Panini's meta language. There are 14 Shiva Sutras. I don't know. Sorry. There's some sharing error. I cannot see half of my screen somehow. So please let me know if you are not able to see it either. So Shiva Sutras are 14 in number, and these are the ones. I wanted to show okay, fine. Videos I'll keep for later, because there's some screen sharing error apparently on my system. I don't know why. So I'll keep it to this. Shiva Sutras ayundruluk eung ayauchaya warat lang yamangananam jhabaya ghadadash jabagadash khapa chatata chatata kapaya shashasar hal. Can you observe what has been contained in these 14 sutras? Can somebody just observe? I'll give you 10 seconds to observe this list from here to this particular slide here.
So is it observation about the way it's presented, or the way you recite it?
Whatever you think. What are Shiva? If I've told you these are Shiva Sutras, why? What are sutras? What are they here for?
Yes,
like,
yes, Rajanji. Yeah, I think Rajan.
One is Swar and one is Vyanjan.
Perfect. So you've gone a step ahead. The first thing is, this is the Sanskrit Varnamala, which is also the Varnamala of Hindi that you've learned. And it's been organized a certain way. Thank you so much, Rajanji, for that answer. So yeah, that's right. The sounds of Sanskrit have been organized in Shiva Sutras. As you know, no grammar can be made without listing the sounds. And Panini does exactly that. He lists the sound first, and then he goes on to form the sutras or the formula. So, I, un, we start with and then till what number, till what letter do you think have we touched the swaras? At what point do the vyanjanas start? If is the swara, beginning of swaras, what is the ending of swaras in this organized list?
Yes, Rajanji, would you like to listen?
Palle.
Yes, Ambikaji.
Ma.
Palle.
Perfect. Rajiv S. Kumar and others. Yes, that's right. So I ouch. Ion, rul, eo, I ouch is where the swaras end. The list of Sanskrit swaras vowels ends here, and then begins the listing of Sanskrit consonants here. So haya varat se leke till the end of this list, which is here, the hal. This is where the consonants end. So why would Panini do this, right? he's trying to give you Sanskrit rules, right? He's trying to teach you language. Why such a hassle? Why undergo such a hassle to organize them into this? Because I mean, we have a simple kavarga, chavarga, tavarga, and this division of kavarga, chavarga, tavarga was known to Panini as well. We have evidence that he knew this. He knew this division, but he took an effort to reorganize this. Many say that this was a part of Sanskrit grammatical tradition. For the sake of this lecture, I'll assume that it was Panini who organized this. But anyway, Sanskrit grammar and grammarians, including Panini, organized the sounds in this manner because they wanted to do something called as pratyahara formation. Pratyahara, what is a pratyahara? Let me take the first sutra, which is a, e, un, the first layer of Sanskrit sounds, the vowels, right? What will Panini do here? Panini, in his grammar, will want to talk about the sounds or the sandhis, as we will see, of a ending in e ending in u ending words. But he cannot keep telling you that I'm going to talk about these three vowels here also, and then in the next chapter also. He will not take an effort. He'll not be, remember, he thinks brevity, less is more. So if you want to say many things, you need to learn how to say a lot many things into the least number of words or least number of letters. So what he does is, he, being the brilliant mind that he was, he simply says, okay, I've given you the 14 sutras. Now what you do, you pick one sutra, one or more, pick the first one, pick the last one. The last one is known as Anubandha, it's Sanyaka, and cut the middle ones, okay? Don't consider these ones. Bring the first and the last one together. And this now is the pratyahara. Absolutely, Kathan Shah. Thank you so much for that word. This is actually encryption. This is modern day, the Sanskrit style of encryption. That's true. In Ana, we will be saying Ana, but Panini will be referring to a, e, and u, all three vowels, and he will exclude Ana here. Okay, so he has very smartly said Ana, but referred to three vowels at a time. All right, this is his mathematical genius, his encryption genius, whatever you want to call it. But pratyahara formation is the first tool that he uses to attain brevity, to attain the logic and the scientificity of his rules and organization likewise. Okay, so that's the first point. And therefore, he will now formulate rules like sine square theta, cos square theta. But even within theta, he doesn't say elements of a, e, u, a, e, u. He doesn't say a, e, u again and again. He only says ana. And with ana, he has already told you that I'm talking about a, e, and u. Okay. And if you read this, elements of an plus similar elements of an become long forms of an. Can somebody make a rough guess what is this rule about? Does it make sense? I know it may not make sense very immediately, but do you understand what this says? This is one of the rules of Panini's grammar, which I've written in English. That's about it.
Is it similar to the sine square theta
Yes,
plus cos
yes.
square theta, or a square plus b square?
Absolutely. So this is representing, this is part of that rule. He's simply representing the dirgha sandhi, and he's written it using ana. He's saying vidya, a plus a is equal to a. That's how he has mentioned, or he has formulated the rules of Sanskrit grammar. So you see, in order to tell you that vidya plus alaya becomes vidyalaya, he first listed the sounds in that order and then used the pratyahara to make a dirgha sandhi rule like this in Sanskrit. And with this, he has not made three different rules for three different. So he doesn't say a plus a is equal to a, e plus e is equal to dirgha e, u plus is equal to dirgha u. He doesn't say this. He simply says ak, and ak becomes an. Here I've used an, so an plus an becomes dirgha form of an. That's about it. And with that one rule, he has covered all the sounds, for which I would have needed three different rules. He has only used one. And that's where less is more gets applied, right? So that's the first idea there. It is Devanagari. Yes. No, I have only written it for the sake of this this talk. The rules are yes in Devanagari, and we'll have a look at the rules. We'll have a look at Panini's Ashtadhyayi actually in the talk as well. So I've given you an idea of the Shiva Sutras. So that was the first tool of Panini's brevity and in turn computational thinking. I'll come to that also in just 2 minutes. Now the second part is the manner in which Panini has organized his Ashtadhyayi. So that's the second tool that we are also very happy about, that I am so excited about. So what did he do? How did he organize his text really? The Ashtadhyayi is divided into 8 chapters, which are the Adhyaya. But there are further divisions within each Adhyaya. Each Adhyaya is divided into 4 further padas. Okay, so 8, first chapter, 4 padas, second chapter, 4 padas. Therefore, 32 pada in Ashtadhyaya there. And then within a pada, we have a sutra. All right. So imagine this. You want to tell a rule of Sanskrit grammar to your students, whoever was Panini teaching at that point. And in order to make it simple or easy to remember, he doesn't go about randomly selling rules. He organizes it into certain divisions, into prakarnas. But for that, he firstly organizes his text into, he gives an outline to his text. Adhyaya Pada Sutra, Adhyaya Pada Sutra. 8 adhyayas, 4 padas per adhyaya, and then sutras. So does anyone remember how many rules approximately, how many sutra is a rule? So how many sutras did Panini give?
Yes, anybody? If you're paying attention.
4,000.
Approximately 4,000. That's right. So that's not the exact number. There is debate also on the number of rules that we have in Ashtadhyayi, but 4,000 approximately is the count. So sorry. Is the screen still visible? You can see this, right?
Yes, it is visible.
No, not this one. Sorry, just a minute.
No problem.
I'll reshare the screen. Yes. Is this visible now?
Yes.
This is a digital version of the Ashtadhyayi, and these are the sections. You can explore it later. I'm pretty sure most of you have seen this website. I'll post the link on the chat as well. All of you who can access it on your phones, please do visit the website as I speak. The Sutra Patha that you see here at the bottom, Sutra, Sanskrit grammar, rules, and Patha is the listing or the Uchcharana Krama. These are the rules of Ashtadhyayi, the similar ones that I just translated into English on the slide. And this is where the rules have started. So if you see this 1.1.1, right? This means Panini is saying, I'm talking about the first Adhyaya, the first pada, and the first rule within that pada. So the first rule within that pada is with Vriddhi Radhaich, which is the first one. Okay. Likewise, there are other rules in the section. And 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the other part. So you can visit the website. I'm not taking much of time here. You can visit the website and see the rules further on. So Vriddhi Radhech is the first rule, and Adeng Guna is the second one. The organization or the listing of sutras in this manner has certain properties, which is where the second part of why Panini is known as a programmer or the world's first programmer is also some people use for him. Why is it that people call him that? So I'll give you a short example of this, and this is where I want you to stop me if this gets way too complex or if it gets verbose. So I'll try to digress or I'll try to remold it and reword it. But because I'm used to speaking amongst Sanskrit students, so I just thought I'll put this example. Let me know. Now, what Panini is doing here, now, no need to understand or decipher any of these sutras. This is all Sanskrit, and probably if you undergo or if you undertake an Ashtadhyayi course sometime in life, you will be able to comprehend. These are very simple Sanskrit words, by the way. So anybody who has learned Sanskrit would be able to comprehend these. Now, the first thing is, he's saying Vriddhi Radhech and Adenguna. I'll just focus on these two. He's saying, if I say the letters A, A, okay? If I speak these letters, Let me call them by the name of Vriddhi. So he's not saying A separately, I separately. He's saying Vriddhi, Rad, Tej. Okay. A and also I, Au. Sorry, I missed Au. A, I, and Au. He's listing these three as a composed name. The name that he's giving all the three sounds is Vriddhi. Recall that in the Shiva Sutras, he did a similar thing. Instead of saying three sounds, E, O, because he'll need them again and again in his text, he gave them a one word, which is Ana. He formed the Pratyahara. So first thing he did, by forming a Pratyahara, he has given a shorter name. Similarly, by giving the name Vriddhi to A, I, and Au, he has relieved himself of the burden to list these sounds accurately every time he wants to say a rule about these sounds in grammar. He's simply saying A, I, and Au. That's Vriddhi for you. Similarly, in the next sutra, he's saying Adeng Gunaha. What does that translate to? He says A, and O. These three would be called as Guna. In my dictionary, in my grammar, if you ever encounter the word Guna, I'll be actually talking about these three sounds, A, and O. So no need to worry, no need to think if you've missed a sound somewhere. If I say Guna, I'm talking about these three sounds. Very smartly, he has given a name and relieved himself of the possible mistakes there, but he has also given us the ease to refer to these sounds every time we come across them, right? Now, what he does with these words, forget these now. What he does with these sounds is now see, we were talking about firstly, he gave us names in the first chapter, in the first pada. Now we have moved to the sixth chapter, right? Sixth chapter, first pada, and the 87th rule. So after giving us these names and these pratyaharas, when he seriously moves on to give us rules about sandhi or samasa or whatever, he is now using these words. He's saying vriddhi, when do you use a vriddhi? When do you do a guna? So on and so forth. So what this rule means? Ad gunaha. What does this rule do? Do you see this sandhi here? Dev plus isha, devesha. Do you see this sandhi here? This sandhi is what this sutra is telling us about, the ruler. So for example, sine square theta plus cos square theta is equal to 1. A plus E is equal to A is what Adguna is teaching us. And with that, he has also told us A plus E is this. And A plus U becomes O. A plus U, so must be an example here. Ganga plus Udakam, Gangodakam. So what he has done is, now notice U being A plus U is equal to O, A plus E is equal to A, right? Mahesha, Devesha. The replacing sounds are what? A and O, right? And if you see the chat box, what are the names A and O called apart from A? They're called Guna. Guna. This is exactly what this Ad Gunaha, he uses the term Gunaha here in order to tell us that this is what the replacement will be. So we know Guna means A and O, and then with certain other applications, certain other rules, we're able to arrive at this sandhi. So in just by the use of Ad Gunaha and given his science and his metaverse of rules, we were able to learn of this. So see, he's given us rules about A, he has given us a rule about O without using many letters. He's only said Ad Gunaha, very simply. He has not used two rules for two different sounds, right? So that's the second idea behind Panini's composition, that he says less is more, but he tries to give he tries to group as many sounds and similar patterned things together to club them and bundle them into one thing. Now, I'll have another tab now to give you a sample of how we program in Python, and that is where I think I'll be ending, and I'll be pointing to other resources. Just a minute. Give me a minute. Where did it go?
So it's interesting to see this coming full circle in terms of starting with understanding these principles and rules of grammar, and then now thinking about computational language.
Yes. So computation, as I said, I've not defined here for the sake of keeping it very, very beginner friendly, but we can surely have a chat later on what does it exactly mean? If you want to pursue it academically, what really do I mean by that? So I'm going again. Anybody from the computer science background here? Anybody who's done Python ever?
Yes, anybody, you can raise your hand. Anybody from computer science engineering background?
Can you please mute yourself?
Sorry? No, I think some participant got. Okay, Manish ji is saying that he graduated 30 years ago. That's okay, Manish ji.
In Python. Oh, in computer science. So you would know the principles of programming. You would know. Right. Is this page visible?
Yes, yes. There's a Google collab page.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So the way we work in Python, this is the first glimpse of Panini's programming skills. If you've not programmed earlier, let me tell you that I'll tell you a very basic thing. Sorry. What I've just done is I've written a command in Python. Okay. I've written a command in Python. All right. And no need to ask me why saving failed. Sorry. I hope this still runs.
Maybe some internet issue?
Probably. This should run anyway. But if it doesn't, maybe I'll share a video later. Oh, perfect. It has worked. Okay.
Yeah.
This is said hello world. Okay, those who've done C++ programming, wonderful. So you know the concepts, right? You know object-oriented programming. You understand what object means. You know what a command or a variable means, right? Perfect. That's all that I needed from this question. That's about it. I'm not talking about advanced programming. So if you know what a variable in programming is, if you know what a command or a statement in programming is, Ashtadhyay will make more sense to you now. Ashtadhyay in the context of computation will then make more sense to you. So what happens here is there's a print command which says hello world. In very simple terms, I have told Python to print hello world on my screen. Okay, and it has done that. Okay. So we'll keep it very, very simple and very friendly. So I've said print hello world and hello world is here. Now let me say, okay, I've said my name. What I've done just now is I have created a variable, my name, and I've given it a value. And instead of my name, I can call it MN. And then I'll tell Python to print MN. Okay. I'll tell Python to print MN. What do you think Python will print? Will it print MN or will it print the value that it was given? Any guesses? Just
the value.
The value, right? It will give the value because I've just assigned Shagun to MN. So MN per se doesn't really have anything except that I'm using it to refer to this. I have given the longer version. Shagun is a long. I can even give it Shagun Sinha. Whatever is delivering something today, whatever. I can give it an even longer value. But when I'm trying to refer to this to tell Python to print it, what is it doing? It's still giving me. Oh, sorry, I've not refreshed this memory. It is still giving me. It will give me the value that I have. I have actually encoded that entire long string or my name or whatever into a short name called MN. Is that okay? Does that resonate with you? Did you understand what I'm saying here? Right. So compare this to what Panini has done in Ad Gunaha and Ading Gunaha. Has he also not said that Guna will refer to A and O, and then at the time of Sandhi he says print Guna. Okay, I'm doing it very roughly. Sorry. Print Guna, and then I get A and O. He has used this very principle. He has declared a variable called Guna. He has given it a value A and O, and then when he goes on to formulate rules, he uses the same variable names. He doesn't say ano. I was not saying shagun, I was only saying mn, and then it printed mn, right? Similarly, I wouldn't say ano, Panini wouldn't say ao, or even a longer list of things. He'll only say guna, vriddhi, ana, so on and so forth. Okay, so that is the idea. That is the first element. And trust me, the list is very long. Okay, the list of computational analysis of Sanskrit is very long, but I just thought I'll introduce you to this. So coming back to my presentation, just
This is very interesting. Whatever you demonstrated and whatever little I could grasp, I found it very, very
yes, yes. I just hope that it's able to uh, kindle some interest in the learner so that they can pursue things that I'm trying to convey, and probably take up a few readings after this lecture.
correct.
So we've seen how the rules work. They're similar to how we code. Sorry. Has my presentation not started on your screens?
No, it hasn't started. We still see, because I think you're sharing a tab.
Sorry.
Yeah, if you share the entire screen, then we'll be able to look at the presentation.
Just a minute.
So Dr. Vikas is also a language person, by the way. He's quite an expert in Gujarati literature and English literature also.
Perfect. Glad I could be a part here.
Yes, Dr. Manish ji's, okay. Yeah, I just shared the link to your blog, your first blog at Anadi's website.
Anadi's.
So participants can take a look.
So now I think the screen is visible, right?
Yes, it's visible.
Yes. So a lot of it will make sense once, if you cover basic Sanskrit grammar course somewhere of a 6-month or even a month-long grammar course or introduction to Ashtadhyayi course. But I've given you an idea of how a sutra looks like and how it functions and how Panini's Ashtadhyayi functions, right? So we have seen how rules work in Ashtadhyayi. This similar and very similar actually to how we code today. And if you think about it, coding, encoding, programming, all of it have a universal underlying principle. So anybody who's trying to solve a problem, say Panini was solving the problem of language analysis versus how modern day programmers solve various problems, when they use a tool, for example, Python, just like Panini uses his Ashtadhyayi, you will not be able to escape the universal rules of coding. That's the key takeaway, I think, from this lecture. So why is Panini called a programmer, and how has he been called a computationally enriched linguist? Why is that? So how does the mathematics fit in somewhere there? It's all because Panini, and nobody actually who does a research and a serious research into analyzing anything or solving any problem of the world will be able to escape any of that. So the universality of problem solving principles is something that Panini was able to do so many years ago. Now count the number of years, 2000 now, 800 back then, 3000 years ago, and at least 2500 years ago, somebody had the power and the thinking capacity to organize things very scientifically, very, very computationally or programmatically into his text without any programming, without any digital tools, without anything. And that is where the magic of Panini's metaverse really lies. For that, I wanted to do a few like something on hands-on. So I'll give you one sample example, and I want everybody to get engaged so that you are able to feel that you participated and I wasn't the only one speaking. So please, I have one quiz at the end, which will come after this, and I also have one task for you. What you see here is the first 4 Maheshwar Sutras. Okay. And I'll also list the other ones. The entire Maheshwar Sutras are here. Just a minute, sorry. Sorry. This is the first set and the second set is here. I want to give you a task. I want you to think that you are Panini. Okay. And you need to form the rules in Sanskrit now. How will you form pratyaharas out of this? Can we have somebody who is acquainted with these come and form or help us form pratyaharas? Anybody who's interested? Otherwise, I'll go.
Yes, any participant, come on. I think this is a good opportunity if you want to engage yourself, if you have a little bit of knowledge of Sanskrit. I think this would be really interesting, not just for you, but also for all of us here. Anybody? Please raise your hand. Come on.
If you're not confident, let me give you one example, and then probably you'll be able to pick up. So these are the 14 Maheshwar Sutras. Now, in the first one, I had formed one pratyahara, which is called An, right? What does An represent? It represents these three sounds, and it excludes the Na. That's the rule. You exclude the last one. So the pratyahara that I have formed here is An. Can you form a similar pratyahara here? What will be that called? There's just one letter that needs elision, that needs to be omitted. Yes,
Really?
that's Rik. Okay, that's Rik.
Really.
Rook, Rik. Given my North Indian upbringing, I call it Rook, but yes, Rook is right. This one becomes, is that right? Ain. Very good. This one becomes H. Perfect. Just like how we did in Python a minute ago, these are all variables. Variables, and these are the values, right? I've written it in a reverse order, yes, but this could be An becomes a, e, u, right? That's the value that it's carrying. Similarly, Rik becomes Ril Rik, so on and so forth. Now the catch is, can I also pick the first letter here, which is what we've been doing? I pick the first a here and I go till the ch here. Instead of staying on the same line, now started the list and to go on till ch, what will be the variable called? Can it be called ach? I start with a and then I go on till ch. I don't stop somewhere, anywhere in between. The variable I'm trying to form is ach.
Ach.
And the Sanskrit name for vowels is ach. Okay, Sanskrit says ach means vowels. So anybody who's into Sanskrit will tell you vowels are called ach in Sanskrit. Likewise, for the now from her, the listing of consonants has started. Now vowels have ended here at ch, right? Now Panini lists the Sanskrit sounds of consonants. Hayavarat, right? If I form the hat pratyahar, okay, what will be included in hat pratyahar? Hayavara. Very good. Ta is excluded by default. Similarly, if I say ja, sha, I'm skipping a few lines. If I form ja, sh, jash, what are the consonants that will be included in this variable? Yes, Dr. Vikas, that's right. Ach for all vowels. Ach for all vowels. And I understand, I get your doubt why ach for all vowels, because clearly we have not seen many vowels here, right? Maybe I'll try to answer that if we have time. But ach for all vowels, that's right. Now, if I start from this her here, just like I did for ach, if I start from her here and go till the last la here, right? What will be the variable or the pratyahara name? Her and Hal, right? And it covers, it means all the Vyanjanas. Ignore the second her that has been kept there for some purpose. We will ignore the second her for now. Let's not go into that. But starting from the first her till the last la, we have covered what are called the consonants in Sanskrit, right? And if you remember, if you're from the Hindi speaking belt, whenever we have this sound at the leg of a letter, we call it halanta, right? Do we call it halanta? Do you call it halant? I, as a Hindi speaker, have always called it a halanta mark. So ra mein halant laga hai, right? That's how we say it. What does halant mean? Something that does not end in a vowel but ends in a consonant. So if I'm writing something like a word like bhubhrit, right? If I'm writing a word like bhubrit or Raj, something like this, I have taken out the sound from the last letters, the and ja.
Half letter, it means.
Yeah. So half means what? What do we mean by half? How is a letter called half? A letter on its own has no sound. It needs a vowel for its sound as per grammar, as per phonetics. But if I'm taking out the sound from it, it is no more ending in a vowel, right? It is no more if I say Raja, it is ending in a, right? It is ending in a. But if I say Raj, it is ending in ja. Now ja on its own is a hull. Therefore, the mark that you add at the end of it, it becomes a halanta mark. That's why it's called a hull. So the word hull actually comes from Panini's Shiva Sutras, and halant means something that ends on a hull, which is a vyanjana. And therefore, you see, many of the words that we have in our vocabulary today come from this. And there's so much that I still wanted to share with you, but I think I'm already 3 minutes past the scheduled time. So last thing that I want to give you is, if you want to get started with this, right? If you really want to study more on this, how and where do you start? I have a link to a few papers that I'd love for you all to see. And just a minute, I'll just share those papers, and that's where I end, I promise. Right. So this is the first paper that anybody who thinks Sanskrit is the best for coding should read. This is a 1985 paper in a magazine called AI Magazine, and this is by a person from NASA. So whenever you hear somebody say ki NASA ne bola hai aisa, and NASA has been saying this, please read this. Ask them to read this paper. This is that paper where everything started and probably went haywire also. So this is the paper. Note the name. I can share, or the DOI has been given here. You can take a screenshot. First paper that you must read. It may take time, but please give it a thorough second or third read as well. It's super interesting. Second paper is Paninian Modern Computer, a Relevant Study. A lovely paper, 6 pages. If you have gained an idea of how and what the Ashtadhyayi looks like, you will find this paper very intriguing. Then we have Euclid and Panini, my favorite paper. I wish I could talk about this today. Euclid and Panini. How has Euclid said his mathematical formula, and how Panini lists his linguistic formula? Both of them have commonalities. So this is a very good paper. You'll find it in JSTOR. It's not downloadable, but you can read online for free. And mathematical analysis of Panini's Shiva Sutras, very well written paper, slightly on the difficult end. So no worries. You can ping me, you can write me or over email. I'll share my email ID here if you want. So we can discuss this paper also sometime. And that's about it. Thank you so much for giving me this platform. I had a lovely time. I hope did not bore many of you off. And I hope I've been able to kindle some love for Sanskrit and Panini in you. The man that changed my life, Panini. So thank you so much. And questions are most invited.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shagunji. As you were delivering your lecture, I was just thinking in my mind, and I was going to share this with Dr. Vikas and my team that not a better way to end this course. What a wonderful insight that you have given us through this connection between Sanskrit grammar and computational linguistics. It's been really fascinating, and even though I think there were some aspects which would require us participants to delve deeper into different aspects, but I think this is a good beginning. And what I also feel very strongly is that even if we may not be Sanskritists or we may not be people from computer science background, just to appreciate this wisdom that our ancients had, and to be able to put these examples in front of our students in the classroom, just to give them an idea about what all our ancients achieved and what is this civilizational repository all about, to just be able to appreciate it, be cognizant of it. You have done a wonderful presentation, and I must thank you profusely for accepting our invitation and being with us here today. And I'm sure that there are already a lot of appreciative messages. So very interesting, super interesting, excellent presentation. Yes, Dr. Paluji, I think this was a perfect session to wrap up the course. Rajan Sharma ji is saying, what I could understand is that coding is embedded in our ancient Indian ancient wisdom and scriptures. Yes, I think that's the takeaway message. Yes, you have inspired Ayushi ji to learn Sanskrit. Yeah, we'd like to talk more about that also. Innovative approach, very valuable, excellent presentation. Thank you for introducing us to Panini. I'm feeling proud that I'm a Bharatiya. Manjusha ji Singh. Samskriti ji says our rishis were scientists and visionaries, and today's session proves that exactly. So let's take some questions. Let's start from Sridevi ji, who has already raised her hand. Sridevi ji, can you please unmute yourself?
Good evening, madam. Am I audible, madam?
Yes, you are audible, Sridevi ji.
Madam, it's like I just wanted to share in English language. We have got phonetics. As you were, it's like analyzing each and every aspect. I am reminded in phonetics we have got p and b sounds, consonant pairs we have got. We usually teach students how description, which is noun, becomes describe in verb. Just like f and v, they are consonant pairs. Life, noun, lives, like that. Maybe maybe the analysis to it's like to understand English language or whatever may be it, they have taken the roots like Panini from our scriptures. Maybe that is what I was going through that. I don't know how to get this, but this is what I wanted to share with you. That is all, madam. That is what.
Okay.
Thank you, Sridevi ji, for that insight. I think Prabha Rao ji in the chat box, she has expressed what most of us feel, because for a lot of us, Sanskrit is a difficult language. It's kind of an impediment. We are looking at bridging this gap between learning Sanskrit and trying to make sense of Bharatiya Gyan Parampara. But through your session, you made it very inspiring, interesting, astonishing. That's what she's saying. Next, we'll take Rajanji's question. He's asking if possible, can we have some specific correlation points between modern science and Sanskrit language marvel? Would you like to respond, Dr. Shagun?
Right. So modern science, my domain and research area is particularly limited to computation, but yes, I can give you resources probably. I have, so you're talking about science, right? You're not talking about language, linguistics sciences,
No,
right?
like science, not in specific, but like whatever we are day to day on basis, we are utilizing the things. Like my grandfather used to tell me ki English is also, I think, coming from Sanskrit only. If you say ma, matra, and mother, probably some sound correlation is there. I don't know the scientific roots of this.
Yes. So, right. So all of this requires a wider study of what's called linguistics and comparative historical. If you want to study, I'll give you pointers to historical linguistics as well. So you would need to study what are called language families and historical linguistics for this. And to give you examples, so so many, the innumerable examples of how people are picking up sciences, ancient sciences, and trying to interpret them in modern light. To answer your question, sir, I also saw another question on AI-driven language processing by Mr. Laskar. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, but are there any active research projects integrating his grammatical framework into machine learning? So this is, Rajan, so this is where I think I can link your question to his question and answer collectively. That grammatical framework is one part, yes. First, the goal of this lecture was to help you understand the past, our past better, like how enriched our past was. That is one. In the age of AI, yes, it's mostly corpus and data driven, And the frameworks that we're talking about, we will need more research. But just to give you an idea, people have tried to create Sanskrit-based programming languages today. Okay, now this is a very complex domain. I won't be able to answer a complete yes or a complete no for this. Is that possible? Research will tell us, but current AI is mostly data-driven, corpus-driven, and the frameworks and models are already there. So that is part one of it. But language analysis is one framework, is one area where this framework can definitely be applied. How do you analyze a language? If you're going out as a linguist on the field and you're trying to analyze a corpus, how would you do that? I think Panini will have a lot many insights for all of us to do. How would you organize your data? How would you hypothesize, and how do you convert things from this to this? So that is one. Second point is, because I'm an academician, I have insights from academia as well. There are texts in Vedanta Sara, in Vedanta, called Vedanta Sara, which have long listed methodologies of research. So if you read them, they look like they're teaching and initiating you into sadhana, dharana, dhyan, samadhi. But if you observe it very, very smartly, you will find that it is nothing but their own research methodology. How are the rishis arriving at the knowledge that they're arriving at? So that's the second point. You need to get the framework. So to answer your question, we may not have word-to-word implementation of every Sanskrit text in the modern world, right? We are not claiming that. We're trying to we're trying to take out insights from them, frameworks from them, and then probably apply them into almost. So language processing, research methodology, and objectivity in research, these are some of the areas that I am working in, and looking at the problems that I'm looking at. So to answer your question, yes, sir, there are many points, many points I can answer from a linguistics perspective, but the research is going on a lot. Probably if you can drop me an email, I'll point you to the resources. But if you can read the papers that I pointed you to, you will have a better idea what I'm trying to say here.
Correct. I think Dr.
Thank
Shagunji
you,
later
ma'am.
Thank you, Rajanji. Thank you so much for that question. I think later on we will reach out to you via email, and maybe you could share these 4 links with us, links of these papers, and because we are compiling resources from other experts also, and kind of we'll put them in a folder and share it with all the participants. Let's take one question from Sheetal Thakur ji. Sheetal Thakur ma'am is asking, can you please present some highlights on Sanskrit inflection system?
Right. So thank you, Sheetal ji, for that question. That I think makes me come closer to the point that I was trying to make. Inflection system is another reason why Sanskrit is called as a computationally rich language, to put it that way. When I want to say, so I'll give you an example in Hindi. If all of you, we all know the Charaka system, right? We all know karta ne, karma ko, so on and so forth. Now, if I want to say things like this in Hindi or English, if I want to, I need prepositions or postpositions in Hindi for that matter, in order to form a full sentence like Ram ne kham khaya, Ram ne Sita ko dekha. So there are 5 words, Ram ne Sita ko dekha, that's one part of it, right? Now, if I were to say the same thing in Sanskrit, the inflection system of Sanskrit would come in handy here and make me say more and less. Again, what Panini desires, what Sanskrit grammar desires. What does that do? What does inflection mean for the uninitiated? Inflection roughly refers to the property of a language to add as much information in a word than outside of it. So if I'm trying to say Ramaha versus Ramam, I've successfully conveyed 2 different ideas about Ram without adding a single letter more. I've just made a few sound changes to Rama, and therefore the changes have come. So Sanskrit inflection system, the way it works is it modifies word to a degree to convey some aspect of its existence. If I'm trying to say one Rama, I'll be saying Ramaha. If I'm trying to say many Ramas or one Balaka, I'll say Balakaha. If I want to say many Balakas, I'll say Balakaha. Note that I have not changed anything or added anything here and there. I've changed it. I'm sorry. I've changed things, but I've not added extra words. So inflection is actually a property, what's called as morphological property, and therefore Sanskrit is known as a morphologically rich language. There are other morphologically rich languages in the world, and Sanskrit is one of the like best known languages of that. So with that inflection system, I am able to use least number of words while conveying more information, which in modern day languages require extra words like prepositions or postpositions. More on this, if you're open, you are free to write to me. I'll point you to resources. Did that answer your question, Sheetalji? I hope it did.
I hope it answered your question, Sheetalji. We have time for 2 more questions.
Thank you.
I think.
I'm satisfied. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheetal ma'am. Thank you so much. I think there are requests for sharing video resources that you may have at your
I did not play
disposal.
that. I'm sorry. Yeah,
That's okay, because we have to constrict so much in this one session.
correct.
But I think for those interested, these video resources will be very, very useful. There's a question, if there's a course on Swayam, on Panini's Ashtadhyayi, are there some courses that you can recommend? You can also do that later on. Not sure, hurry.
Do write to me. Please write to me on my
Yeah.
email. I'll be happy to share them.
Yes. Then Pradeep Kumarji is asking, is there any rule book for English language like Ashtadhyayi? Not sure of it.
Brennan Martin.
Yes. Okay. Manish ji, yes, please go ahead, Manish ji.
Yeah, I have a question on inflection. So the example you gave was of a noun, but I'm sure the same will apply even to verb.
That's right.
Like
That's
you can modify a verb for referring
That's
to singular, dual, plural, etc.
Correct. So have we not all grown up with phalam phale phalani and patati
Yeah.
patata patanti? On the name of Sanskrit, this is something everybody knows, even if they don't know Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha, right? So patati patata patanti is a classic example of verbal conjugation, which has inflectional properties. So with pat as a root, all that I'm doing is changing the ti, taha and anti endings of it. Instead of raha hai, rahi hai, stuff like that. The simple ending to the end, which are all suffixes, the conjugational suffixes that we add to a verbal root, they lead to the change in either the person or the number, or both of them actually at times. So that inflection applies.
Certain Indian languages also have this property.
Right. So yes, they do.
Yeah. I think there was an example in the chat box from somebody who is a Telugu speaker, Siva Prasad Sita. She's saying, even in Telugu, my language, the vowels are called as achulu and consonants are called as halulu, similar to Sanskrit. Right.
Telugu, Malayalam, I have been to Kerala once. I loved being there. I could always pick, the vocabulary was so common with Sanskrit. I just picked it up. I did not know the structure, the grammar of Telugu and Malayalam, so I couldn't understand the sentence, but I picked up the words very well. So they share a vocabulary. Vocabulary sharing is there with Sanskrit and Telugu. And that's another area of discussion, by the way.
Right. So some participants, Kathanji has rightly said that he is having Sanskrit class nostalgia. Great. And I think Kiranji made a very good comment earlier that if Sanskrit were taught in such an interesting way in school, I think people would not have found it boring. Of course, Sanskrit was typecasted as a subject that was very scoring, and that is why it had to be taken. So she's saying one lecture today is far better than 5 years of reading in school.
Thank you.
There's a question by Madhukarji. I'll just encapsulate what he's trying to say. He's asking, what do you think will be challenging for new learners for Sanskrit, I think, in the current context, as well as for the originality of the language today?
To answer the first part of the question, what would be challenging? So quite coincidentally, I was teaching a bunch of new learners in my class today, and some of the things which I had assumed they may know as part of being in a Sanskrit course for 2 months now, I realized that they did not know. So the challenge for a learner is to find a good teacher, actually. That's the only challenge. Somebody who knows where to start with you. If you can find that, and if you can find a one-on-one guru, I think that's the first thing. But more than that, I think it would be the anxiety or overwhelming aspect of it, because the vocabulary and the list of words is so huge. And at the end of the day, when we're trying to reduce it to form a sentence, we're only picking 2 words out of the list of 10 or 20 words. So the student may feel overwhelmed at times and anxious at times. Why am I learning list of so many words when I need only 1 or 2 at times to read the Ramayana, for example, or to read the Mahabharata, for example? So I think both the challenges are more on the mechanical external front. One is to find a good teacher and a good resource, and the second is on the internal front, which is to manage your own attitude and anxiety. Other than that, trust me, Sanskrit is nothing but fun, and I can give it to you in any form you want me to. It's just that you need to find the right time and person. And just to share one incident here, you're telling me, I wish Sanskrit were taught like this in school, right? Trust me, Sanskrit was taught to me like this in school by my very favorite, my very own Madhu ma'am, whom I still remember. She's the one who taught me Ashtadhyayi in 9th standard, which is not taught in standard CBSE schools, which is why I am here in front of you as a Sanskritist today. So you see, a teacher plays a huge role, and the teachings go a long way. So I resonate with that feeling. I totally understand what you're saying. Agreed.
Thank you for answering that question. Yes, Dr. Madhukar, any quick comments? Because I see your hand raised.
Actually, ma'am, I would like to know, as we know all, nowadays Sanskrit is translated with mechanically with the help of so many tools like AI and other translated softwares.
Yes.
So we find that they don't have the emotion or our spiritual essence, what is translated by some other language. So that's my query. How then new learners are to get that essence of that about Sanskrit language, which is written in Sanskrit, which have the spiritual essence, we have the emotions, but nowadays Sanskrit is translated mechanically.
Yes,
So-
correct. We understood the question, Madhukarji. Yes, quick response from you, Dr. Shagun.
Right. So my answer is you're right. It's been translated mechanically. So there's no resort in near future. I'm sorry. You will need to find a human companion or somebody who knows Sanskrit with its right background to study it with. The challenge is there with, I think, any language that is being translated. But just for your information, most translations in the textual translations are not being done with AI. Even if they're being done, they're being post-edited by some humans. So the answer is you need a human being to learn it with. So do visit some university or some Peetha or somewhere to read it from, or go for a well-recommended book. Find a good recommendation from a scholar instead of picking any random book from Amazon or elsewhere. And the second thing is, I would like to point you all to the Varta Sanskrit Varta news, which is done on Doordarshan and All India Radio. So listen to that. There are links to it on YouTube as well. I've started working with Doordarshan just this week. So we are also doing translations there. And it's fun again. So there people may take the help of AI slightly, but for those spiritual and other texts, we are not. We just can't. AI is way far away from that point right now. It can't interpret the context. Sorry.
Great. So great to know that you're associated with Doordarshan. I think it's wonderful, and I'm sure they will benefit a lot. And in turn, the audiences are going to benefit from your expertise. That's wonderful. So last word to Rajanji. Rajanji, can you quickly unmute yourself?
Okay. Ma'am, my point was that as we are, discussing this, can we have some book where we can easily understand, like a layman like me can understand the concepts of Panini also, and plus we go through various verses of shloka and other things.
Right.
Like the Gita Press Gorakhpur, they give you this Anvay. Anvay is like breakup part, but many books they don't have this. So that makes for one to understand easily the things, in parts and other things.
So would you
what's your
want
take on
to, I'll surely send the resources, but there's one very good called Devavani Praveshika. It's in English, Devavani Praveshika, and also a higher Sanskrit grammar by M.R. Kale. So M.R. Kale is more of an academic book. Devavani Praveshika, it's by 2 English American scholars, but wonderful book. So if you want, you can read those, and other resources I can always share. Vyoma Linguistic Labs has a series of very good courses. Vyoma Labs, do download that app. Wonderful app, wonderful platform. go ahead for beginner level. They have all courses. And if you need
Yeah.
a correspondence course, final resources, Sanskrit Bharati's correspondence courses. But those are mostly in Sanskrit. So what they're doing is trying to initiate you into Sanskrit learning and speaking environment.
Correct.
You can do correspondence courses or this. And IGNU has put up very good material recently. So if you're wanting to learn a language, IGNU, Vyoma, Sanskrit Bharati are the places to go to. And learn Sanskrit online. I'll put it here. Learn I'll give it to Nidhi.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Thank you.
In fact, since Dr. Shagunji brought up Vyoma Linguistic Labs, I think very recently, and it even shared with you, Dr. Shagun, I think at that point in time you were busy, but Vyoma Linguistic Labs, which is I think based in Bengaluru,
Yes.
and S. Vyasa University, they did a very, very interesting course on data mining for IKS.
Yes.
It was a very good 2-day workshop, very interesting. I could pick up some aspects, but next time when the workshop happens, I'll definitely share it with our pool of participants, because I think that gave exposure and orientation to a lot of these hands-on tools.
Right.
So I think that would be interesting. And of course, Shagunji, there are so many appreciative comments in the chat box. I am copying all of these for you, and I will share it with you over email. And thank you so much. So now we have to close this session. And as I said earlier, I couldn't be more delighted to have Dr. Shagunji deliver the closure lecture. She is a wonderful person, and I hope that very soon we can meet offline and you can come to my university in Baroda. You can travel to Chhattisgarh, to Vikas's university, and engage. We would really be very delighted, and I'm sure a larger audience needs to benefit from young people like you and see you as an inspiring personality who's like at the forefront of the IKS revolution.
Learning from you, Nidhi and Vikas and likewise from all of you. Learning from you, really learned a lot from you during our fellowship, as I said earlier as well. Thank you so much for this. Thank you so much for this.
Yeah, in fact, if Anadi is offering a next round of the fellowship, I'll share it with our participants. All participants can also benefit from it. So thank you so much, Dr. Shagun Sinha, for offering this closing lecture, and we hope to stay connected. We hope to collaborate with you in the future. We wish you all the best for your scholastic endeavors, for endeavors at the professional and the personal front. And I think with brilliant academics like you, I am sure that the teaching and research space in India is well taken care of. It is so sacrosanct, and it is wonderful to see bright minds like you leading from the front. So thank you so much.
The same for you, Nidhi. Thank you so much. It's been a lovely audience, lovely resource persons, and the organizers. Would love to hear more about this, and I hope I am going to come for this FDP next time as a participant for sure.
Yes, so there's definitely requests from participants if you could come on our platform. Of course, I know there are multiple engagements at your end, but if this could be offered as a primer or as an introductory FDP as part of the IKS series that we are doing.
Sure.
So we'll be in touch with Shagunji. I think there's a request for your email address, which I can share if you permit.
Absolutely. Please do go ahead. Do you want me to type it out on the chat box?
Yeah, you can type it out.
I'll be happy to do that.
And on this note, let's not forget all our previous resource persons also, Professor Mala Kapadia, with whom we began this journey on the first day. Shri Kapil Bhatia, Dr. Saswati Bordoloi, Shri Hitarth Pandya, Shefali Upadhyay ji, Shivakumar ji from Indic Academy, Dr. Kapil Kumar Bhattacharya, Bhargav Parekh ji, Manasa Shastri, who delivered an excellent lecture on yoga philosophy yesterday, and of course, Dr. Shagun Sinha. We have had an excellent ensemble of resource persons and experts, and we hope that participants made the most of this 2-week FDP. And thank you so much for joining. We are coming up with more FDPs in the IKS series. And actually, I think in the month of June, end of June, beginning of July, we'll be offering a second round of this certificate course, which will be similar, but it will have 10 different other experts on IKS. So thank you so much. Wonderful to have you all. And please stay connected with the NLD team. Please follow us on Instagram and Facebook. And let's together be a part of this learning journey. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you so
everyone.
much. Thank you very much,
Dr.
Nidhi madam and Shagun ma'am. Very nice to interact with you. We
Yeah.
miss from tomorrow these sessions. Thank you.
Yes, we will also miss. So, Dr.
Thank
Shagun, you can exit. We'll just do a little bit of organizational formality and then we can end. Thank you, Dr. Shagun. Namaste.
Thank you so much. Namaste.
Namaste.
Dr. Sakun. Thank you very much.
Yes, Dr.
Please
Vikas,
stop the
anything
recording.
from you?
No, I have shared the feedback form.
Thank you so much, ma'am. The sessions were very interesting, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank you,
conducting.
Nivedita ji. Now me and Vikas need a break. We need some rest time because we have a range of FDP starting in the first week of March. So we will use time to recuperate, right, Dr. Vikas? Yes, Aditi ji, you have raised your hand. Okay, humble request to hold the FDP from 8 p.m. onwards. 8 p.m. is Dr. Vikas's favorite slot, but it is my least favorite slot. So 8 to 9 is a bit tricky because there's so much going on. But yes, we'll keep this request in mind. Yes, Aditi ji. Aditi ji.
Nidhi, a reminder to stop the recording first.
Sure. I think